Hello there, welcome back. After a long hiatus, introduction and transformation of simple, compound and complex sentences. First, we'll individually understand each one of them. Alright, so what are simple sentences? A simple sentence has one finite verb because it just has one clause. It does not have a conjunction. It has phrases. It may have gerunds or infinitives. I'll explain all these three. Gerunds are not actually verbs, but they look like verbs, but they do the work of a noun. And infinitives are the two forms of the verbs. Or both of these are not verbs, but they work like a verb. Alright, next, what are phrases? Phrases are a group of words that have a particular meaning of its own. It does not have a verb of its own. Examples are in spite of, instead of, in order to, on having, despite, due to, owing to, etc. Now, getting to the two non-finite forms of the verbs. The clause will have a finite verb which is restricted by the person and number. These two are the non-finite forms of the verbs. That means they are not restricted with person and number. These, like gerunds I told you, these are not verbs, but they do the work of a verb. For example, walking, playing, reading, etc. When you look at them, they look like a verb, but the way they are used in a sentence tells us that they are not used as verbs. Let's see an example. Like walking is good for health. So what is good for health? It's walking. So it's a noun. So gerunds do the work of a noun over here. Playing exercises our mind. What exercises our mind? Playing. Reading is a good habit. What's a good habit? It's reading. So these are all gerunds. They look like verbs, but they don't do the work of a verb. Another non-finite form is the infinitive form. That is the to form of the verb. Example is, let's say, to study, to fly, etc. Now, we go to school to study. Now, if you change the subject, I go to school to study. This remains to study. Let's take he. He goes to school to study. So this infinitive form does not change. So it is not restricted to the person and number of the subject. If we change it to he, she goes to school to study. This remains the same. This is the finite verb. It changes. This doesn't change. Like another example is to fly. The baby bird learned to fly. Even if you change the baby birds learn to fly, the to fly form will not change. So this is the finite form and this is the non-finite, which is the infinitive form of the non-finite form of the verb. Now a list of certain rules to transform a complex or a compound sentence into a simple sentence. First of all, discard the conjunction because a compound and a complex sentence will have two different types of conjunctions. Compound will have a coordinating conjunction and a complex will have subordinating conjunction. Use phrases. I just told you they have phrases. Use gerunds or infinitives, the non-finite forms of the verbs, and use words like after, before, on, in, being, etc. All this depends on the type of the sentence. It all boils down to one thing. You will need to feel the sentence. If you don't feel the sentence, transformation might become very difficult because English is a very irrational language. Okay, now getting back to how to transform a compound sentence into a simple sentence. I'll explain it with an example. She finished her cooking and arranged the table. Now this is a simple sentence. It has two clauses. She finished her cooking and she arranged the table. So these are two individual clauses. Both of them are independent. Now when you transform it into a simple sentence, I'm using the ing form, as you can see over here. Having finished her cooking, she arranged the table. Now look at this, a complex sentence into a simple sentence. As time passed, the old man lost his vigor. Now, what is a complex sentence? Again, I'll tell you. A complex sentence has two clauses. As time passed, this is the dependent clause. You don't know what happened. It doesn't make complete sense. As time passed, so what? Now, this is an independent clause. The old man lost his vigor. Now, so this is a complex sentence. Now, when you transform it into a simple, I have used the gerund form of the verb, that is the ing form. With the passing of time, the old man lost his vigor. So I have discarded the conjunction as from here, and I have discarded the conjunction and over here. Next, What is a compound sentence? A compound sentence has two clauses. Both these clauses would be independent clauses or principal clauses or main clauses. What I mean by these words is they do not depend on each other. Like I just gave you an example by transforming a compound to simple. So there are two finite verbs because there are two clauses, and they are joined. The two clauses are joined by a coordinating conjunction. Now here is an little elaborate list of coordinating conjunctions like and, but, or, so, otherwise, therefore, either or, neither nor, not only but also, etc. Now rules to transform a simple or a complex sentence into a compound sentence. For simple to compound, you have to add a finite verb because simple will have only one finite verb and a compound sentence will have two finite verbs. Add a coordinating conjunction which is there in a compound sentence. Example, she must work diligently to achieve success. Diligently is very carefully, meticulously, and hard work. She must work diligently and achieve success. Now the to achieve form, which is the infinitive form which I just explained, has been transformed into a finite verb which is achieve. Now converting a complex sentence into a compound sentence. A complex sentence will have a subordinating conjunction, so you change the conjunction from a subordinating conjunction to a coordinating conjunction in a compound sentence. Look at this example. Daddy stared at grandma who screamed at him. Daddy stared at grandma and she screamed at him. So who screamed at him is the independent clause, is the dependent clause which is dependent on this independent clause or the principal clause. Daddy stared at grandma. It makes complete sense. Who screamed at him doesn't make complete sense, so it is the dependent clause or the subordinate clause which is dependent on this to complete its meaning. Now here there are two independent clauses. Daddy stared at grandma, one clause. She screamed at him is the other clause. So it's a compound sentence. Now what are complex sentences? A complex sentence has two clauses because it has two clauses. One clause is the independent or the principal or the main clause, and the other clause is the dependent or the subordinate clause. This clause does not make any sense if it does not have this clause. So this is therefore called the dependent clause, which is dependent on the main clause. Since there are two clauses, so there would be two finite verbs. The two clauses here are joined by a subordinating conjunction. Now here is a little elaborate list of some of the subordinating conjunctions. When, where, who, why, since, though, although, which, while, whom, whose, until, unless, whatever, whenever, wherever, hence, as soon as, no sooner than, etc. Now rules to transform a simple or a compound sentence into a complex sentence. Now from simple to complex, you know a simple has only one finite verb and complex has two clauses, so there are two finite verbs. So you add a finite verb. One finite verb would already be there. You'll have to add another one. That is, you'll have to transform the gerund or the infinitive form into a finite verb. Make sure you don't change the verb and add a subordinating conjunction which is there in a complex sentence. Now look at this example. I got my father's property. There's only one finite verb. Okay. Now I'm adding another finite verb, belonged. I got the property, that is one principal clause, which belonged to my father, which is a complex, the dependent clause. I got the property, that is the main clause, and the dependent clause is, this is the subordinating conjunction which belonged to my father. Remember, when you transform any sentence in English, the meaning does not and should not change. Like, I got my father's property, that means I got the property which belonged to my father. The meaning remains the same, only the form changes. That's why it's known as transformation. The moment the meaning changes, the sentence or transformation is wrong. Now, compound to complex. A very simple thing, you just change the conjunction from the coordinating conjunction to a subordinating conjunction. The animal attacked and Mohan got scared. There are two independent clauses. The animal attacked, that's one independent, and Mohan got scared, another independent clause. Now I have to use a coordinating conjunction which I have used when, or you can also use as in this particular sentence. So The animal attacked and Mohan got scared. Mohan got scared when the animal attacked, or Mohan got scared as the animal attacked. Here also there are two finite verbs, and here there was a coordinating conjunction and here you have a subordinating conjunction when or as. Finally, all I want to add is grammar is not a matter of reading. It is just like math. You will have to practice, put it down on paper, and if possible, you also need to copy the question sentence in order to feel the sentence properly so that you are able to transform it appropriately. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.